Howdy, howdy, this is Mr. Potter, and welcome to our 1K subscriber special. So I want to talk a little bit about what happened. You see, last week, I hit 1K subscribers. And last week, I hit 1K subscribers. And so I actually hit this milestone twice, and I didn't lose any subs in between. I just happened to hit a special number on both of these occasions. So the question why this is such a special number, I'm going to blame on the French, and I'm going to blame on computer scientists. So I'm actually going to start with the French first. So this is Charlemagne, King of the Franks, united most of Europe in the early Middle Ages, and pretty much before the metric system came about, measuring anything was really messed up because each country had its own way of measuring things. In fact, different towns had different ways of measuring things. If you take a look at Charlemagne, the distance between his outstretched fingers was something called a toise. And this was actually a basic French unit of measurement up until the 1700s. And if you take this distance and you break it up into 6 equal parts, you end up with something called the pied de roi, or in other words, the foot of the king. And because the French Normans invaded England in 1066, the idea of this foot became part of what we call imperial measurements. So different countries had different ways of measuring distances, and different towns had different ways of measuring distances. You actually had something called the livre de Tours and the livre de Paris, which was different ways of measuring mass in Tours, France, and Paris, France. Different towns even had different ways of measuring things. And this is a horrible thing for the scientific community. So we get to Antoine Lavoisier, French scientist, late 1700s, and he's one of a group of scientists that come up with this metric system. Rather than having your measurement distances or weights or whatever based on agricultural means, which aren't necessarily reproducible, or regal means, and of course every king's not going to have the same height or weight or length of foot. Rather, he decided that he was going to make his things based on the natural world, impenetrable things. The volume of a kilogram, which we'll talk about in just a bit, was based on the mass of a cubic decimeter of water. And the idea that water wouldn't change mass. The meter was actually determined to be 1/fraction of the length of the equator around the Earth. Again, the Earth being something that shouldn't change size. And the whole idea behind this metric system that, one, we're going to come up with meters and grams and liters. And of course, if you're French, then we're going to go ahead and do the French spelling as well. But, some of these things are going to be either too big or too small to be used in the scientific community. So we come up with different prefixes to state these things. And we came up with the prefix K, or kilo, based on the Greek kilios, which means 1,000 in Greek. And so when I do a kiloliter, then we're talking about 1,000 liters. If I'm talking about a kilogram, then we're talking about 1,000 grams. And you never do kill a meter, you kilometer. So I guess I shouldn't call this kilo subscribers, because I don't want to kill them. I'd have to call these kilo subscribers. But anyway, the idea is that these different prefixes are based on nice, even numbers, and based on the European way of putting commas between every 3 digits. Every group of 3 places had some significance. So you've got kilo, you've got mega, you've got giga, you've got tera, you've got peta, and you've got exa, and this thing keeps going up and up and up. There's a lot of different prefixes for lots of big numbers, and there's also prefixes for small numbers. And of course, we're used to this in the metric system. However, in computer science, there's a little bit of a deviation here. The idea here is that, of course, computer science, things are in binary. As a matter of fact, we even talk about a binary digit, which is either 0 or 1. And, of course, to short this, we call it a bit. So if I have 1 bit, that's 1 0 or 1 1. That's one turning on or turning off of the light. If we put 8 of these together, 8 bits is 1 byte. And a byte is going to be some series of zeros and ones that's 8 bits long. But of course, a bit holds a very little bit of information. In our computer science videos, we've seen how I can have a letter be represented by a bit. So if I want to talk about more than just one letter, if I want to have a word or an image or an audio clip or a video clip or an entire hard drive, I need to group these together. And so the idea came up with, well, let's talk about a kilobyte. But being computer scientists and being so heavy into this binary, we use the fact that a kilobyte is going to be 2 to the 10 bytes. Because, of course, 2 to the 10 is really close to 1,000. This is 1,024, which we're comparing to 1,000. And if we do the next group, 2 to the 20th, that's really close to 10 to the 6th. Of course, it makes sense because all we're doing are squaring these numbers. But this is 1,048,576. And so this is when we're talking about a megabyte. And of course, we can talk about gigabytes, which I can think of as 2 to the 30th, which is going to be really close to a billion. A billion plus some change. I can talk about a terabyte, and computer scientists would call that 2 to the 40th power, because we're talking about now a trillion bytes. The problem is that when I use kilo, now I've got something ambiguous. Am I talking about 1,000 or am I talking about 1,024? Remember, the whole idea behind this metric system, the whole idea Antoine Lavoisier came up with, was that this was supposed to be standard, predictable, understandable. And of course, we are actually going to blame, oops, let's go back. We're actually going to blame hard drive manufacturers. Because hard drive manufacturers came up with this wonderful idea. They said, hey, you know what? I can talk about a 1 gigabyte. But that's really just going to be 1 billion bytes. Because giga means 10 to the 9th. But of course, computer scientists are saying, hey, you know what, that should be 1,173,000,000 bytes. Whatever 2 to the 30th comes out to be. And so we've got this confusion here that I could actually have 1 gigabyte, but this 1 gigabyte, if I look at it in terms of binary storage, this is less than 2 to the 30th. So I'm actually going to see something like 983 megabytes on my 1 gigabyte hard drive. And of course, we actually see this currently because Microsoft is still one of these companies that uses this power of 2 to describe hard drive space, memory space, other things computerized. Whereas other companies like Apple have actually come down to this idea of a gigabyte. So what'll happen is I will see a file with 65,536 bytes. But according to Microsoft, I'm going to see that as a 64 kilobyte file. But on Apple, I'm going to see that as a 66 kilobyte, because they're going to take this 5, look at the next digit, and round up. So the question is, when I talk about 1K subscribers, is it really fair to say that I have 1,000 subscribers? Am I allowed to say I have 1,024 subscribers? Which one of these is 1K? So scientists, in their infinite wisdom, come up with another term and say, you know what? This notion of 2 to the 10th and 2 to the 20th and 2 to the 30th. That is an important notion. We should give that a name, but let's not use kilo and mega and giga because those have meanings already, historical meanings going back hundreds of years. Let's instead call 1024 bytes a kibibyte. And of course, the hilarious thing is that we're going to have to come up with a new, because we have a new prefix, we can't just put K, I have to put Ki in front of it. So what happened is on Sunday, I hit 1 kilosubscriber. Actually, I said I was going to call that kilosubscribers, right? And then on Friday, I hit a kibisubscriber. Okay? So when we're talking about binary stuff, when we're talking about computer stuff, we'll often be using megabytes and gigabytes and tebibytes and petabytes. When we're talking about that 2 to the power, when we're talking about the binary, we're going to have that extra bit in there to let us know, hey, this is binary we're talking about. But, hard drive manufacturers are still going to sell us a terabyte hard drive, and that terabyte hard drive will only have about 960 gigabytes on it. So as long as you're okay with that, that's good. And of course, if you're not okay with that, good luck trying to find another hard drive. Point I'm trying to come up with is, this is just an odometer reading. What's happened here is that my subscriber count went from 999 and this number went up, which caused this number to go up, which caused this number to go up, which caused this number to go up. And that's how I reached 1,000. The idea is that this only happens one subscriber at a time. And I am not one of those types of people who ask you to hit that like button or to ring that notification bell. I'm not going to tell you or beg you to put comments down below or to subscribe to my channel. I'm not going to ask you to support me on my Patreon. I'm not going to beg you to buy any merchandise from me. All that I do at the end of every video is thank you for watching and ask you to have a good day. Because ultimately, I'm blessed with the idea that you want to watch my videos. I am so happy for that. I love producing educational content, and I love the fact that you like to watch it. So once again, this is Mr. Potter. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.